Millions of pages from the Jeffrey Epstein files were finally unsealed. Newsrooms across the world raced toward the same familiar destinations: Washington, Hollywood, Buckingham Palace. The headlines almost wrote themselves. But buried beneath those names was something almost nobody seemed to notice: a second map. One that stretched thousands of miles across the world's most resource-rich continent: Africa. Not one country, not one meeting, not one email. A pattern. And once you see it, it's difficult to stop seeing it. The released US Department of Justice records contain millions of emails, address books, chat logs, and financial records connected to Jeffrey Epstein's network. Most references to Africa appear ordinary when viewed alone. A business contact, a political introduction, a travel discussion, an investment proposal. Nothing extraordinary. Until another appears, then another, then another. Eventually, the question changes. Not whether Africa appears, but why it appears so often. March 2010, London, the Ritz Hotel. South African President Jacob Zuma had just completed the official engagements of his state visit to Britain. Then came a private dinner. Emails released by the Justice Department show that Epstein associate Mark Lloyd invited guests on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein. One invitation went to a Russian model, describing her as someone who would add some real glamour to the evening. Another email, sent after the dinner, praised the impression she made. The records suggest Epstein closely followed the arrangements, but they never reveal what happened once the doors closed. Nor do they establish wrongdoing by President Zuma, whose foundation rejected suggestions of improper conduct. The dinner doesn't answer the mystery, it begins it. The Zuma correspondence wasn't isolated. The same files contain hundreds of references involving Karim Wade, then a Senegalese minister, discussing investment opportunities connected to Africa. Former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe appears in correspondence linked to discussions about Zimbabwe's economy. In another exchange, someone asked Epstein a simple question. Who did he know in South Africa besides Nelson Mandela and Jacob Zuma? His reply contained only one word: many. Epstein had a reputation for exaggeration, yet the records suggest that, at least here, his network extended further than many realized. The deeper the files go, the more one theme repeats: access. South African business figures appear throughout the records, including Patrice Motsepe, Saul Kerzner, Ivan Glasenberg, and Rob Hersov. One exchange shows Epstein recommending Motsepe as a potential investor. Another proposes connecting African capital with Silicon Valley. On the surface, these read like ordinary business conversations, but taken together, they hint at something more sophisticated. Epstein wasn't simply collecting influential names. He appeared to position himself as a connector, a broker between African opportunity, London's financial circles, and America's technology economy. To Western investors, Africa represented untapped markets. To African elites, Silicon Valley represented capital, influence, and global reach. Whether those ambitions ever materialized is unclear. What the records show is that Epstein repeatedly tried to place himself in the middle. Influence, after all, is most valuable when everyone believes they need you. The investigation leads east. Epstein's address book contained multiple Kenyan entries. Among them were contacts linked to Nairobi's Muthaiga Club, author and conservationist Kuki Gallman, and several Kenyan business figures. Appearing in Epstein's address book does not imply criminal wrongdoing. The address book was a personal contact directory accumulated over many years. But Kenya surfaced elsewhere too. One declassified document identified Kenya among several international destinations associated with sex tourism. Separately, Ghislaine Maxwell, later convicted for recruiting underage girls for Epstein, visited Kenya numerous times over the years. Each fact stands on its own. Together, they make Kenya impossible to ignore. For a while, the explanation seemed obvious. This was simply how wealthy people operated. They attended dinners, collected business cards, introduced investors, expanded networks. Case closed. Then another set of emails emerged. Everything shifted. The records reveal repeated requests for South African assistants, managers, hospitality staff, and travel personnel. Other communications discuss aspiring models seeking opportunities in cities such as Paris and New York. Recruiters forwarded photographs and profiles from Cape Town. Wire transfers moved to South African bank accounts over several years, although the released records do not explain the purpose of many of those payments. Viewed separately, these appear administrative. Viewed together, they reveal something more systematic, not isolated conversations, a human infrastructure, a network that blended social introductions, staffing requests, travel logistics, and professional opportunities into a single ecosystem of access. The documents do not answer every question, but they reveal an organization that operated through relationships long before it operated through transactions. Power rarely arrives announcing itself. It accumulates quietly. One invitation, one recommendation, one business meeting, one trusted introduction. Most people build networks to expand influence. Epstein appeared to build influence by expanding networks. That distinction matters, because once enough relationships converge, the network itself becomes the asset. One country, then 4, one dinner, then hundreds of references. Politics, finance, business, recruitment. Africa wasn't hidden. It simply wasn't where most people were looking. The released files do not reveal a single master plan, nor do they prove wrongdoing by everyone whose name appears within them. Instead, they reveal a consistent pattern, a man repeatedly seeking proximity to influence wherever it existed. Governments, corporate boardrooms, financial networks, emerging markets. Many records remain redacted. Many conversations end without context. Many questions remain unanswered. Yet one conclusion becomes difficult to dismiss. Africa was not a passing interest. Across politics, finance, and professional networks, it appeared again and again inside Epstein's world. Return to the Ritz Hotel, crystal glasses, soft conversation, closed doors. The documents preserve the invitations, the guest lists, the follow-up emails, but not the conversation itself. History often works that way. It preserves the edges of the puzzle while leaving the center blank. 3 million newly released records have reshaped how the world understands Jeffrey Epstein's network. Hidden among the headlines was an African chapter stretching from Dakar to Harare to Nairobi to Johannesburg. Not a story of one country, not one politician, not one business leader. A pattern of recurring connections that deserves the same scrutiny applied everywhere else. Perhaps the most revealing discovery wasn't a single name. It was the realization that while much of the world searched the files for familiar faces, an entire geography of influence remained largely overlooked. And if millions of pages could hide that much in plain sight, what else has yet to be noticed?